Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about the reasons I became a Christian. What was the evidence that convinced me that Christianity was true and that God exists? I'm just going to give you a simple outline of the subjects that I looked into that ended up making me believe this is true. Talking to you today from a place called Shenton Ridge. This is just a few minutes from my home, or about a 20-minute walk. Or just about 5 minutes on a motorcycle. Anyway, it's absolutely beautiful up here. Just makes me look at this place and this view and just the wonder of God's creation. It's amazing. Anyway, I'll show you the view before we start, and I hope you enjoy. So here we are, just at one of the viewpoints up Shenton Ridge. In the background there, you can see the ocean. The little island in the far background there is called Sihiho. Let's go around. You can see where the buildings are. That is Dumaguete City. Going a little bit to the left here. And then that other island over there, that's actually Cebu Island. And very easy to get to Cebu City from here. Just a 30-minute ferry crossing. And then you're on your way. About 5-6 hours to Cebu City from here. Anyway, we're quite high up in the mountain here. Here's the other side. It's late afternoon, and it's a beautiful day. Anyway, I'm sure you'll agree this is a beautiful view. If you notice that I'm wearing a different color shirt, you would be very correct. That's because yesterday I came here to shoot this video, and it was a beautiful day, and shot the scenery, and I started talking about what I want to talk about today. Halfway through my video, someone close by pulled out a chainsaw and was beginning to cut wood. It was very noisy, and I waited for a little bit but gave up and just couldn't get the video completed. So here I am back today with a different color shirt. To finish this video. We're going to be battling some dogs as well, I think, today, because there's a little bit of noise up here. But it's a beautiful area, and I love to come up here. Anyway, so let's talk about a couple of issues that convinced me that Christianity is true and that God exists. The first thing that got my curiosity was the case for the resurrection of Jesus. After reading that book that was given to me, it certainly, that wasn't it that totally convinced me, but it got me on a path to learning more and looking into more resources and trying to really figure out, could this really be true? Well, I spent a long time listening to different people, arguments for and against, and I came to the conclusion that the resurrection has to be true. I'm going to refer you to a good source if you're interested in looking for solid evidence. I'm going to recommend that you listen to someone called Gary Habermas. I'll put a link in my description. But he has some very interesting facts to present and arguments for Christianity. I highly recommend you listen to him. There's other people, of course. And if you want to do what I did, I didn't just always listen to one side and convince myself it was true. I always wanted to know what the other side's argument was. So I got in the habit of listening to both sides, people that didn't believe in Christianity or the resurrection, and of course the people that do. And just after the time I spent on this, I just couldn't deny the fact that just the arguments against the resurrection were weak, and it just seems to me that the event is history. It happened. So anyway, I was convinced Jesus exists. Jesus was crucified. Jesus died and was buried. That seems to be an undisputable fact. There are other undisputable facts, like Jesus's tomb was empty. and the body was never found. Um, Also, there's the disciples that clearly had experiences of the risen Christ, and also their lives were dramatically transformed because of these experiences. They're just some common facts that pretty much everybody agrees with. Um, the 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 evidence is there if you want to look into it. Again, I'm not going to spend time on this video laying out a case. I'm sharing with you the reasons that brought me to faith in Christ, the things that I looked into, and if you're truly interested or seeking, um, then I recommend you do what I did. You know, go on YouTube, go on the internet, do searches. You can find good arguments for and against, and make your own decision. Okay, so the next challenge I had, this was actually my biggest challenge, was accepting that a God really exists. Uh, I had incredible difficulty understanding or comprehending something eternal. And when I was an atheist, I used to have nightmares about infinity, about the idea that when we die, that's it, forever. You're gone. And I never used to think about the other direction too much, though, about infinity past. And as I started to investigate, is God real? Could he really exist? I started giving this deep thought and again investigating this. And there's many arguments, and some of them are quite complicated. The arguments about how the universe came into existence from an eternal past. There's some really interesting arguments. Again, I recommend you search and look into it, because the way I've listened to some of these arguments, they're very complicated to understand. So here it is, my kind of simple explanation in layman terms of how I ended up comprehending God, or believing that, yes, it makes a lot more rational sense that God exists versus doesn't exist. So we got two choices that I can think of, and if anybody knows more, I'd love to know. But the two choices are something intelligent created everything, or the second option is nothing intelligent or nothing created everything. So if something begins to exist, it must have a cause. The universe exists, therefore it must have a cause. It's a famous argument. The first one I kind of listened to, and starts making you think, yeah, how out of an eternal past can suddenly a universe pop into existence? Well, mathematically, on an infinite timeline, it actually can't. It's impossible. I mean, going back on an infinite timeline with no starting point makes it impossible to get to a point where something actually does start. So time can't be as we know it. We live in a timeline, obviously, and have a certain understanding of what time is, but time must have had a beginning also. Time must have been created. I don't know, nobody knows when, but I'm assuming that it started at the time the universe came into existence. So here's the question: where did God come from? And I found this answer, and you could find it too, I'm sure, pretty easy over the internet, but I like the answer. And it goes something like this. The God of the Bible is not affected by time, space, or matter. If he is affected by time, space, or matter, he is not God. Time, space, and matter must have come into existence at the same time, the same instant, should I say. If there was matter and no space, where would you put it? If there was matter and space, but no time, when would you put it? You cannot have time, space, or matter independently. They have to come into existence simultaneously. The Bible answers this in 10 words. In the beginning, there's time. God created the heaven, there's space, and the earth, there's matter. So you have time, space, matter, a trinity of trinities. Space has length, width, and height. Matter has solid, liquid, gas. And time is past, present, and future. You have a trinity of trinities created instantly. The God who created the universe is outside the universe. He is above it, beyond it, in it, through it, and unaffected by it. The question, where did God come from, is assuming a limited God. And that's the problem. The God that I now know is not limited by time, space, or matter. If I could fit the infinite God into my little brain, he would not be worth worshipping. So that was an answer that I found very strong about God. So we shouldn't be asking that question. It's not a valid question. God is eternal and has always been, and it's so hard to comprehend that. But intelligence exists. Obviously, I'm having a conversation with you now. We're all aware of ourselves, and I think humans are intelligent beings. So clearly, intelligence exists. So why not always existed? The bottom line is something has clearly always existed, and I think it's just as actually more rational to believe that an intelligence did it than nothing did it. I mean, what makes more sense to you, that out of in the beginning God, or in the beginning nothing? And I think the evidence of an intelligence creating everything is just overwhelming. I mean, there's other subjects and things I looked into that ended up giving me no choice but to believe that this has to be true. And some of these other kind of subjects I'm not going to get into today. I don't want this to be a long, boring lecture on all this evidence. But I will at some point talk about other subjects. And those are the fine-tuning of the universe, which is incredible. I don't even want to start on that now, because this will be another 30 minutes just laying out some simple facts of how finely tuned the universe is. And then there's the life from non-life. At some point, life started, and no one has been able to explain that. There have been various experiments man has attempted to do to try and show that chemicals can create life, but they've actually all failed, and man has never been able to throw chemicals together and create life. And if man could create life, I guess that would prove it takes intelligence to create life. And then there's the argument about objective moral values, which I think is another long discussion. But objective moral values do exist, and I believe they come from a standard set by God. We all know the difference between good and evil, well, all, most. We mostly know the difference in right and wrong, and we mostly all instinctively try to be good people. We try to help one another. We have emotions like love. We recognize beauty. These are things that I believe come from God. Anyway, in the future, I'd like to discuss these reasons that I believe in God and I believe in Christ. I'd like to discuss them in more depth, and maybe at some time in the future I'll pick one subject and we'll just have a discussion about it, and I will tell you the things about that particular subject that convinced me. And again, if it gets your interest, do what I did, investigate. I think everybody at some point in their life owes it to themselves to at least look into the possibility that God exists, if you're not a believer already. Or if you're agnostic and you're just not sure, well, stop not being sure and do some investigation. There is so much information out there that you can look into, and you can at least be clear in your mind instead of, I just don't know. At least look into what evidence is out there and come to the conclusion: is this true or is this not true? I believe you'll come to the conclusion that number one, God exists. I think that is the most rational thought you could have. Um, but you might not. Maybe you'll investigate and just decide, no, I don't believe. At least you would have known that you've taken some time to look into what the truth is, and is there a reason for life? Is there a purpose for life? I think we all owe it to ourselves to, at some point, look into what could be the truth. Anyway, that's going to be it for my little video today, and just touched on a couple of subjects that convinced me that this was all true. And I pray that someone out there will do some research, and hopefully it'll change your life like it has mine. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to the next video. Goodbye.